Hello everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Swati and in this video we'll be talking about application server. So what is an application server? Let's say you are browsing your internet and you want to access a file over the browser. So your request goes from your browser to a web server that is hosting those files and it gives back the appropriate response back to your browser. But if the requested content is dynamic, if it involves logging into a system if it involves accessing the database or if it involves real-time content, then the application server will serve you those files from the places that they are being hosted. Okay, so a application server works in collaboration with a web server, that is the area or the location where your hosted files are stored. So the application server is mainly responsible to give out dynamic content. So we'll see what these are in detail. So let's start the video. So we'll start the application server introduction and types. We'll be talking the following topics. Before we start an application server, we need to first understand what is a web server and how does it work. Next, we'll talk about the application server and what are its types and what is an application server. Then we'll talk about static and dynamic web servers differences and also deployment models used to deploy app servers. Okay, and then what are the deployment models that can be used, which you can use to deploy your application servers. So the first topic is, what is a web server? The web server is a software or a computer system which hosts your files such as HTML, images, CSS, style sheet, JavaScript file over internet, and you can access them through the HTTP protocol. So if you have a website and you need to host it somewhere so that the world can view your website, then if you are storing it on your own computer and on local host, if you are running, then only you can view it. But if you want the world to see your website and you want the world to access your website, and if you have something to offer them and you want them to purchase it or you want them to use your services, then you need to host your website onto your hosting provider, which will host your files as well as enable it for the world to see as well as interact with it. So the interactivity is possible through the web browser. That is, your hosting provider will provide you a space that will give you the flexibility to update as well as use that space to store your web files over there, and that is called a web server. So whenever a external user interacts with your website, then he will actually be accessing that web server through the browser, the following request which he raises, and the appropriate response will be sent back to your browser through that web server. But the web server is primarily responsible to only interact with the static content. That is, if you are accessing an image file or if you want to share some static data, then a web server will help you out. That is, the web server will serve you the static content and not the dynamic ones which you have user interactivity. So in static content or in the web server content, the user interactivity is very limited. So but the user interactivity comes into play in an application server. So application server is a server platform that provides an environment for running and managing application. That it works in collaboration with web server. That is, whenever a request is raised on a browser, like if you are surfing Google, and in Google if you want to let's say go to a website that is giving flowers, you want to give someone flowers, so you will go to that website and you will see the list of their available flowers that can be sent out. So the list that is given to you is static because it's already present there. But if once you interact with it, once you click on it and once you want to purchase it and enter your address, then the application server comes into play, because the moment a user interactivity enters, the application server starts running. The web server transfers the request that a user want to access a database, or the user want to do some login interactivity, or the user wants some dynamic content. Then in that scenario, the web server will transfer the request to the application server. This needs to be handled, and the application server will serve as that middleware which will help the user, the browser or the client server, to interact with the database. That is, once the user has created his or her login, then the database needs to be accessed to check the to verify the entered credentials. Then the application server comes into play, that it will interact with the database and will authenticate the user. Okay, you are authorized, you can go ahead with the purchase. So the application server serves as the middleware, enabling communication and interaction between various services that are the components of the application, such as the web server, the database, the client server, the browser. So all of them are works together, and all of them are integrated through the application server. That is, it serves mostly the dynamic content. Okay. So what's the difference between static and dynamic web server? Static server comprises of a computer and HTTP server. That is the protocol that we use to serve through the internet. That is, whenever a browser requests something from the internet browser, then the protocol uses HTTP. So static server uses the HTTP protocol, whereas the dynamic server uses the HTTP along with other protocols such as SMTP, FTP, that is these mail protocol, simple mail transfer protocol, file transfer protocol, remote procedure calls, etc. Dynamic web servers can use the other protocols along with HTTP protocol. Static server sends files to web browser without any changes. That is, the sites are with fixed content. That is, they are static. There is no changes done to it. It is displayed as it is. And examples are the blogs that you see of various people. They are pre-written, and there is no limited user interactivity. And websites such as resumes websites or other pages which are displayed to you as it is, and you just you can mostly just view them, and there is limited interactivity with that page. And that's a static web page, and that is giving you the static web server. Okay. And the dynamic web server generates web pages at runtime. That is, if you log into your Facebook page, then you first need to log in, then it will interact with the database, and when the interaction is done and when you are authenticated to go and enter into your Facebook page, then you can see the post of your friends, whatever they have entered. If you have some friend requests, or if you have any other update going on there, so everything is dynamic. That is, it is being generated in real time, because if someone posts something on Facebook, then you will automatically see that in real time. So dynamic server is generally generates web pages at runtime, and the such dynamic interactivity is mostly done by the application server. So examples are social media sites or e-commerce websites, where there is a lot of user interactivity and which generate content in real time. And examples of HTTP server, or example of static web server, are Apache HTTP server, IIS Internet Information Service by Microsoft, and Nginx, which is a web server as well as a load balancer. And in the dynamic web server, examples are IBM WebSphere, Wildfly, Glassfish, Payara, etc. Okay. Now the deployment models. In how many ways an application server can be deployed? The one is on premises. If you can host your server onto your own premises, that is on the location in which you are staying, or in which your organization is, and that server is managed by your team or by your IT team, and everything is enabled by you and everything is accessible by you. So that is an on-premise. That is on the premises of the person or the organization using the software, and there is no remote uh, facility here. So it is installed on your own servers and maintained by your team. So data remains under your control. This is examples of on-premises are Microsoft 365 for sales, Tableau, Microsoft Exchange Server, Oracle database for data management. So these are on-premises softwares that you can use to deploy your application server. Number two is cloud. The cloud computing is an on-demand facility that the vendor or the cloud giver provides you to access his or her services based on a pay-as-you-go model. That is, if you are hosting your server on some cloud provider such as AWS or Google Cloud or Azure, or if you are using services of hosting providers such as GoDaddy or Hostinger, then they are giving you a platform as well as They are giving you the storage space to host your files, so you can access them remotely wherever you want, in your on your mobile or on your laptop or any other place. So that's a cloud computing platform. That is it is being possible by a third party, which is giving you the power to access their services based on a price model that you pay for the services that you use. Okay, and it's not managed by the user, it's mostly managed by the cloud provider. Okay, the large clouds, if the large companies which provide large cloud spaces, they have their own data center, such as Google has their own data center, Amazon has their own data center. So large cloud providers have their own data centers, which hundreds and thousands of cloud services are being tackled with. Okay, so your resources are shared to the user using the cloud services with the pay as you go model, and it helps to the users to manage cost, so that you do not have to worry about the cost, and you do not have to worry about the server, the storage, the load balancing, the security, that how, what is the server, how much storage. It will give you the storage as much as you want, and based on the price model, and you don't have to worry much about security, because the cloud provider will handle the security as well. And you just have to manage your code, and you just have to work on your projects and whatever you want to build. So this will give you the flexibility to build without worrying much about server storage, load balancing, etc. Examples of cloud service providers can be AWS, Salesforce, DigitalOcean, Google Cloud Platform, Azure, etc. Okay, and the last one is platform as a service, which is Paas, which is also known as PaaS. So platform as a service provides you with a platform. As the name suggests, platform as a service provides you with a platform, that is a place where you can build your applications from scratch, and it gives you a server, it gives you storage, it gives you the infrastructure, and you do not have to worry much about the infrastructure mainly, and you can build your applications in any language or in any framework that you want using platform as a services. Okay, the customer, here in PaaS, the customer manages the applications and data. So whatever applications you want to build, you just need to manage that, as well as what data needs to be entered into that. While the platform as a service model, the provider which has provided you with this service will manage the runtime, he will manage the middleware, the operating system, the virtualization, the server storage, and the networking part. That is, it will handle which operating system you want to use. If you want to use the Linux distros, or if you want to run with Windows, if you want to go with Mac, you can also choose that. You can choose virtualization as well, that if you want to use the virtual framework such as VMware or Oracle VirtualBox, or if you want to go with AWS instances. Then it also gives you the power to choose your servers, and also the storage area, whatever, how much storage you want, and the networking, that load balancing, and also the security groups. You can manage, the provider manages all these, and the user, that is the person who has chosen the PaaS, just need to manage the applications and the data. So the examples of PaaS can be Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, AWS, VMware, Heroku, etc. These are the examples that provides you with the platform as a service. So this was all for this video. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to share it with your friends. Please subscribe to the channel. Keep learning, keep growing. Thank you very much.